In the delicate theater of life, some moments burn into memory with the weight of thunder. A funeral, a promise, a betrayal, and a bullet that tore through the fabric of a family's soul. This is a story about love twisted into betrayal, grief shattered by shock, and the thin line where devotion turns to vengeance. The small chapel in the heart of Atlanta was packed to the brim that crisp November morning. Faces lined with tears, hands clutching each other for comfort. The community had come to say goodbye to Elaine Freeman, a devoted wife, mother, sister, and friend. Elaine was 52 years old, a pillar in her neighborhood, known for her warm smile, her unwavering faith, and a heart as wide as the Mississippi River. She was not just a wife to Malcolm Freeman, but the mother of their only son, Marcus, a young man who had inherited his mother's sharp mind and fierce spirit. Yet beneath the solemn prayers and the soft hymns, a storm was brewing. Before we begin, like this video and comment where you are watching from. Your support helps us bring more intriguing stories. Now let's begin. Elaine's death was sudden, a violent stroke that had shattered a family already fragile beneath the surface. No one imagined that beneath the veneer of grief, a darker truth lay waiting to explode. Malcolm Freeman stood near the altar, his face unreadable behind the rim of his glasses. He was a tall man, his once strong frame now slouched beneath the weight of loss. But something about him was off. His eyes flickered, darting to the side, to a woman seated quietly in the third row. She was Vanessa Thomas, 45, and Malcolm's mistress. Vanessa's presence at the funeral was a whispered scandal, a sin stitched deep into the fabric of the Freeman family. While Elaine's funeral was meant to be a sanctuary of mourning, Vanessa sat there as a secret wound, raw and exposed. To be the mistress is to live in the shadows, a ghost in someone else's story. But to appear openly at the funeral of the wife you betrayed, it was an act that defied every unspoken rule of respect, every fragile boundary of grief. What happened next would become the nightmare that seared itself into Marcus Freeman's memory forever. As the service neared its end, Malcolm stepped forward, his voice trembling but determined. He cleared his throat and, to the horror of everyone, took Vanessa's hand. Then, in a voice thick with emotion, or was it guilt, he proposed marriage to her. The room froze. Mourners gasped. Some cried out in disbelief. Elaine's brother, Walter, whispered harsh curses under his breath. But the most devastating reaction was from Marcus. Imagine standing there, cradling the broken pieces of your mother's life, only to have her husband turn to the woman who shattered your family and ask her to be his bride. It was a blow so cruel, so unforgivable, that it turned the fragile veil of mourning into a battlefield. Marcus Freeman, 26 years old and already marked by the loss of his mother, felt the rage surge like wildfire inside him. His fists clenched, his breath hitched. The funeral was no longer a place for prayer. It was a powder keg about to explode. Grief does strange things to the human heart. It can twist love into hatred, sorrow into rage, and turn a son's devotion into a desperate need for justice or revenge. Suddenly, without warning, Marcus pulled a gun from his coat pocket. In the hushed chaos that followed, the sound of a single gunshot shattered the solemnity of the church like a thunderclap. Malcolm Freeman collapsed to the floor, blood blossoming across his navy suit. The room erupted in screams. Paramedics rushed Malcolm to the hospital, but his wound was fatal. He died within hours. Marcus was arrested on the spot, handcuffed, trembling, the weight of his actions crushing him as much as the grief that had driven him there. Was Marcus a cold-blooded killer, or a broken son pushed to the edge by a cruelty too great to bear? But this story does not end here. Behind the public spectacle was a web of lies, secrets so twisted that the truth threatened to unravel everything the Freemans believed about their family. Malcolm wasn't the man we thought he was. There were things happening behind closed doors, things no one wanted to face. What dark truths was Malcolm hiding? What was the real story behind his affair with Vanessa? And why did Elaine's death set off a chain reaction none of them could have imagined? Weeks after the shooting, a shocking revelation surfaced. Police uncovered that Malcolm's relationship with Vanessa was not a mere affair. It was a calculated move in a desperate attempt to cover up something far more sinister. A secret business deal gone wrong, an illegal scheme involving money laundering, and evidence that suggested Elaine's death might not have been a natural stroke, but something far more deliberate. Could Elaine have been murdered? Was Malcolm's death truly the end, or just the beginning of a darker, more dangerous story? As the leaves fell and winter crept in, the Freeman family sat fractured, torn by grief, betrayal, and the violent clash of love and hate. And somewhere in the shadows, Vanessa Thomas waited, a woman whose own secrets were far from revealed. In the next chapter of this harrowing saga, the truth will claw its way to the surface, and the fragile line between justice and vengeance will blur forever. Sometimes, the truth hides not in the obvious, but in the shadows we refuse to enter. Behind every act of violence lies a history, a fractured past full of secrets, lies, and silent screams. Elaine Freeman was more than a devoted wife. She was a woman whose life had become tangled in a web of deceit that not even death could unravel. Detective Angela Brooks arrived at the Freeman household shortly after the shooting. A veteran investigator in her early 40s, she was known for her sharp instincts and quiet empathy, the kind of cop who listens not just to words, but to what lies beneath them. Detective Brooks. When I first walked in, the grief was palpable, but beneath the surface, there was something else, a tension so thick you could almost cut it with a knife. I knew this case wasn't going to be simple. Marcus Freeman was charged with attempted murder, but what drove a son to shoot his father at a funeral, in front of friends, family, and a community still reeling from loss? Brooks dug deeper, peeling back layers of the Freeman family history, and what she found unsettled even her seasoned soul. Malcolm Freeman was not the man the public thought he was. Beneath the polished exterior of a successful businessman lay a man drowning in desperation. His affair with Vanessa Thomas was not born from passion, but from fear. Financial records revealed staggering debts and a failing business empire built on shaky foundations. Vanessa wasn't just a mistress, she was Malcolm's lifeline, a partner in crime, perhaps, a woman who held keys to secrets that Elaine never knew, and Marcus was determined to uncover. Vanessa Thomas, calm and composed in public, was anything but a victim. Her history revealed a pattern of manipulation and calculated moves designed to secure power and wealth. Vanessa, I loved Malcolm, but it was more than that. I did what I had to do. Elaine was fragile. The marriage was already broken long before any of this. Fragile, broken. Those words echo with bitterness and cruelty. But Vanessa's calm exterior cracked under pressure, a glimpse into a woman hardened by years of deceit. Detective Brooks uncovered a chilling detail. Elaine's death was not caused solely by a stroke. Toxicology reports indicated traces of a rare poison in her system, a slow-acting toxin, invisible to the naked eye, capable of mimicking natural causes. Murder disguised as misfortune. The ultimate betrayal. A wife betrayed not just in life, but in death. Under intense questioning, Marcus revealed a fragment of the truth. He never intended to kill his father. The gun was meant to scare, to force Malcolm to confess the lies he had lived. But when Malcolm reached for Vanessa during the funeral, something inside Marcus snapped. Imagine the heartbreak of a son who watched his mother die slowly, knowing that the man he trusted was the architect of her suffering. His rage was raw, uncontrollable, a desperate attempt to reclaim justice. The Freeman's neighbors and friends were torn. Some saw Marcus as a hero fighting for his mother's honor. Others as a tragic figure, consumed by anger. Neighbor whispered, "I loved Elaine like family, but Marcus, he lost himself. It's a tragedy all around." As the investigation gained momentum, Detective Brooks received an anonymous tip. Vanessa had a secret, a second identity, and connections to a powerful criminal network that had been laundering money through Malcolm's businesses. A mistress with many faces, a husband whose lies built a house of cards, and a son caught in the crossfire. One night, as Brooks reviewed the files late into the evening, her phone buzzed with a message that chilled her to the bone. "You're closer than you think. Stop digging, or you'll be next." When truth becomes a weapon, Who will survive the fallout? And what horrors still lurk beneath the surface, waiting to emerge? In the shadowed corridors of deceit, masks slip, revealing not who we want to be, but who we truly are. Vanessa Thomas was no ordinary mistress. Behind her composed facade was a woman shaped by lies, danger, and ambition that ran deeper than anyone imagined. Vanessa's real name was Veronica Price. Born and raised in a forgotten corner of Chicago, she'd learned early that survival meant becoming whoever the moment demanded, a chameleon slipping between identities, each more convincing than the last. She had danced with the law more times than she cared to admit, slipping through the cracks with a deadly mix of charm and cunning. Malcolm Freeman had been her biggest mark, a man drowning in debts, desperate for salvation. Vanessa's influence over Malcolm wasn't just emotional. She was the architect of his downfall, pulling strings in an underground web of money laundering, illicit deals, and threats that bound them both in a toxic pact. Every promise Malcolm made to his wife was a lie. Every whisper Vanessa shared was a poison. And Elaine, trapped in the middle, was the innocent casualty. In the interrogation room, Brooks pushes harder. Detective Brooks asked, "Did you kill Elaine Freeman?" Vanessa's eyes flicker, a brief crack in the icy mask. Vanessa responded, "She was dying before I ever met Malcolm. But did I speed it up? Maybe. Survival isn't pretty." Outside the station, Marcus Freeman battles his own demons. Haunted by the gunshot, the funeral, the father he killed. He's a man torn between justice and guilt. Grief had morphed into a prison. Marcus was trapped by the past, his love for his mother eclipsed by the shadow of his violent act. Could forgiveness ever find a place in his fractured heart? Detective Brooks receives a call from the medical examiner. New tests confirm Elaine was poisoned with aconitine, a toxin rare and difficult to obtain. The question was no longer if Elaine was murdered, but who had the knowledge, the means, and the cruel intent to use such a poison? Marcus confesses something chilling. Before the funeral, he'd found evidence suggesting his father was involved in illegal arms trafficking, and Vanessa was the key. The Freemans' tragedy was bigger than a broken marriage. It was a story of greed, power, and deadly secrets that could destroy anyone who got too close. In a final twist, a mysterious package arrives at Detective Brooks's office. Inside, a USB drive labeled "Only Truth." She plugs it into her laptop, her eyes scanning the screen. Suddenly, her face drains of color. What she discovered would shake the city to its core, implicating not just Vanessa and Malcolm, but powerful figures no one dared name. Sometimes the truth arrives not like a thunderclap, but as a slow, creeping shadow. A shadow that grows longer with every secret uncovered. When Detective Angela Brooks clicked open, she opened more than files. She opened a Pandora's box. The contents of the USB were damning. A series of encrypted emails, financial ledgers, photos, and video clips. They exposed a sprawling network of corruption that stretched far beyond the Freeman family. Malcolm Freeman wasn't just a desperate businessman. He was a pawn in a larger game, one that involved money laundering, illegal arms deals, and a criminal syndicate with fingers in the highest echelons of power. And at the center of it all was Vanessa, or Veronica Price, as the files called her. Not just a mistress, but a ruthless operative whose mission was to control and manipulate. Detective Brooks traced a labyrinth of shell companies funneling millions of dollars through the Freeman family's businesses, all coordinated by Vanessa. Each transfer was a thread weaving a tapestry of deceit and danger. Malcolm's business empire was a facade, masking illicit deals that lined the pockets of the powerful and endangered the innocent. One video was particularly chilling, footage of Vanessa visiting a shadowy figure in a secluded warehouse. The man handed her a small vial. That vial contained aconitine, the deadly poison found in Elaine Freeman's body. Vanessa had the means, motive, and opportunity. Brooks knew revealing this evidence would rip open old wounds and threaten lives. She contacted Marcus to share what she had uncovered. "All my life, I wanted to believe my father was better than this. But the man I shot, that wasn't him. That was someone I didn't even know." Faced with the mounting evidence, Vanessa's demeanor began to crack. Why poison Elaine? Why drag this family through hell? Vanessa, cold, resigned. Elaine was a liability. She knew too much, asked too many questions. I didn't want to hurt her, but survival demands sacrifices. A sacrifice that cost a woman her life, a son his innocence, and a community its peace. But the story didn't end there. As Brooks delved deeper, she realized the syndicate behind Vanessa had eyes everywhere. The anonymous threat she received wasn't an empty warning, it was a promise. Powerful men and women with everything to lose would do anything to keep their secrets buried. Despite the danger, Marcus vowed to see justice for his mother. The shooting, the lies, the betrayal, it all demanded an answer. Marcus, determined, my mother deserves more than silence. I'm ready to face whatever comes next. One stormy night, as Detective Brooks reviewed the case files, a knock came at her door. She opened it to find a man she never expected, Malcolm Freeman himself, alive and very much dangerous. He was supposed to be behind bars, but some ghosts refused to stay buried. Malcolm smirking. You don't know the half of it, Detective. This game's far from over. Some men die clean, others rot from the inside and walk the earth wearing the skin of the living. Malcolm Freeman didn't just survive a bullet to the chest, he survived justice itself. The man standing in front of her looked different. Thinner, hollow-eyed, scar stitched down his collarbone, but his voice still carried that chilling calm, the voice of a man who never truly feared consequence. Malcolm said quietly, I came to warn you, Detective. You're chasing shadows with teeth. Brooks, gripping her weapon, responded, You're supposed to be dead. Marcus, he shot you. I saw the autopsy report. Malcolm smirked, stepping forward into the dim light. You saw what they wanted you to see. Vanessa staged it. Faked everything. You really think she was working alone? What Vanessa had started, Malcolm had only continued. But now, with Vanessa behind bars and the empire crumbling, the true puppet masters were revealing themselves. Malcolm slid a manila envelope across Brooks's table. Inside were surveillance photos, men in tailored suits exchanging briefcases, politicians shaking hands with gang enforcers, and one image that made her blood freeze. It was Chief Ronald Gates, Brooks's superior, in the company of known traffickers. Brooks whispering, They're inside the department. Malcolm responded, They're everywhere, Angela. You can't arrest them. You can't expose them. But maybe, just maybe, you can burn the whole rotten house down. Meanwhile, Marcus Freeman remained off-grid, hiding in a remote cousin's trailer just outside of Charleston. The news had begun to trickle through back channels. His father was alive. What does a man do when the one sin he thought he'd committed was a lie? When the death he thought brought justice only opened a deeper wound? Marcus was unraveling, and he wasn't alone. Detective Brooks revisited Elaine Freeman's belongings. Among them, a leather-bound journal. Inside were pages written in shaky cursive, Elaine's thoughts, fears, suspicions. One entry stood out. I think Malcolm's poisoning me. I know it sounds insane, but Vanessa's always around. They whisper when I enter the room. Something's wrong with the tea. I've stopped drinking it. I think they know. She knew. She knew, and no one listened. A woman fading day by day in her own home. Gaslight, isolated, hunted. Elaine Freeman wasn't just a victim. She was a prophet screaming into the void. Back at county jail, Vanessa was no longer the cool, elegant woman who had once worn her lies like diamonds. She looked worn, bruised, and jittery. She demanded to see Brooks. Vanessa, nervously, You think Malcolm's back? Then you're in more danger than you realize. He was never a pawn. He was the architect. Brooks countered. You lied about everything. You let Marcus believe he killed his father. Vanessa breaking. I had to. Malcolm's not human, Angela. He doesn't die, not really. He kills things around him. Families. Faith. Hope. He hollowed me out and filled me with poison. Vanessa offered something in exchange for protection. A detailed ledger of the entire operation. Names, dates, shipments, bribes. It was enough to burn the city down. It was also enough to sign her death warrant. 2 days later, she was found hanging in her cell. But it wasn't suicide. Brooks knew it. The bruises told a different story. Marcus, devastated and enraged by the news, emerged from hiding and demanded a meeting with Brooks. He was gaunt, sleep-deprived, but resolute. Marcus inquired, "You said she was the mastermind, but it was always him, wasn't it? He killed my mom. He tricked me into pulling that trigger. I want to end this. No courts, no lawyers, just me and him." Detective Brooks stood at a crossroad. The justice system was compromised. Her department was infected, and the man at the center, Malcolm Freeman, was now a walking ghost, protected by shadows. What is justice in a world where the truth can be bought, buried, or burned? What remains when the courts fall silent and the innocent lie in unmarked graves? One final lead emerged from Vanessa's ledger, a hidden property listed under a pseudonym just outside of Somerville. A safe house, perhaps, or a trap. Brooks and Marcus agreed to go together. As they approached the gated estate at twilight, the atmosphere grew suffocatingly still. The house loomed like a tombstone. No lights, no movement. Brooks quietly, "We go in, we don't stop, no matter what we find." Marcus nodded, gripping a pistol tightly in his jacket pocket. They stepped through the front door and heard a voice. Malcolm from the darkness. "I wondered when you'd come home, son." The trap had already sprung. The house was rigged. The final game had begun, and only one would walk out alive. Some stories don't end where we want them to. Justice doesn't always wear a badge, and sometimes the only way to kill a monster is to become one. The inside of the house was a mausoleum of secrets, opulent, cold, untouched by time. Dust floated in the stale air. Photographs lined the walls, each one a lie captured in color. Malcolm smiling beside Elaine, Malcolm holding baby Marcus, Malcolm arm in arm with Vanessa. It was a timeline of manipulation, all leading to this moment. Malcolm calmly, "Put the gun down, Angela. You're standing in a place where truth dies, same as everything else." Brooks aiming, "I should have ended this the moment I knew you were alive." Marcus stepping forward, "Let me talk to him." Brooks hesitated. The boy who once wept at his mother's grave was now a man consumed by fury, betrayal, and something more dangerous, clarity. Marcus to Malcolm, "You let me believe I killed you." Malcolm responded, "Because you needed to feel it. That fire in your chest, that rage, that's your legacy. That's the Freeman blood." Marcus, voice trembling, "Mom was right about you. You don't love anyone. You just consume them." Malcolm Freeman didn't believe in love. He believed in leverage and loyalty bought with fear. He didn't raise a family. He groomed them. Malcolm reached slowly into his coat, revealing a second pistol. Brooks exclaimed, "Don't." Malcolm, smiling faintly, "You two came here thinking this would be some righteous reckoning, that if you put a bullet in me, you'd feel whole again. But nothing you do tonight will change what I've taken." And then a shot rang out, but not for Malcolm. Marcus had fired first. A clean shot, center mass. Malcolm stumbled back, eyes wide, mouth agape. He dropped to his knees and then collapsed down the stairs, body thudding with finality. This time, he didn't get back up. Police swept the estate. The documents inside tied Malcolm to a labyrinth of corruption. Names, bribes, bodies buried beneath decades of silence. The ledger Vanessa had hidden was confirmed, damning evidence leading to multiple arrests, including Chief Ronald Gates. Detective Angela Brooks went public. She blew the whistle, testified. Her career was torched in the process, but the truth was out. Marcus turned himself in. He didn't run. He didn't beg. Judge during sentencing, this court acknowledges the extraordinary circumstances surrounding the death of Malcolm Freeman. While vigilante justice cannot be condoned, we recognize the danger he posed to society and his own family. Marcus was sentenced to 5 years. With time served and good behavior, he'd be out in 2. In prison, Marcus started a program for young men with incarcerated fathers, offering mentorship, literacy training, and conflict mediation. He called it the Freeman Project. Because sometimes, to break a cycle, you have to name it, then bury it. Detective Brooks resigned from the force, but she didn't walk away from justice. She became a private investigator, specializing in domestic abuse and coercive control cases, helping other women escape what Elaine Freeman never could. Elaine Freeman's story wasn't just a tragedy. It was a warning that evil doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it smiles at you from across the dinner table. We must learn to listen to women who say they're afraid. We must believe sons when they say something feels wrong. We must teach love without control and strength without violence. Because what happened in the Freeman family started in silence and ended in gunfire. If this story moved you, if you felt that ache in your chest for Elaine, for Marcus, for the lives torn apart, don't let it stop here. Comment below. What moment shook you the most? Like this video if you believe justice can still find a way. Share it to keep Elaine's memory alive. Subscribe for more true stories that reveal the darkness and shine a light.